Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Todd Evans and Stephen Schnee to the channel. Tonight we are ranking the albums of Rick Springfield. We're looking at those RCA albums from 1981 to 1988. So let's get started. We want to hear from
Talking bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are going to talk Rick Springfield. Here we have Todd Evans and Stephen Schnee. I want to welcome both of these gentlemen because if I'm going to talk Rick Springfield, I can't imagine who else I'd want on this show. So I want to welcome both of you gentlemen. Nice to see you. How are you?
Thanks, Grant.
Good,
hey,
thank
Todd.
you. Hi.
And the other thing is, I don't think people are talking about Rick Springfield so much.
I don't think they ever have, except in the early 80s.
No, I think
Which is
probably,
sad.
yeah, because as a musician, he's incredible. He has a great body of work.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people think that he's just does the acting thing. But one thing that people don't know is that he put out quite a few records in the 70s, kind of went away, came back and got a record deal with RCA. And at the same time, he ended up getting that gig on General Hospital as Dr. Noah Drake.
Right. And I think that Rick Springfield he was unfortunately a teen idol, although his music was far more mature than your average teen idol. So he was so beloved by the teens that a lot of people just automatically think of him as a teen idol. I think artists like Nick Kershaw, Howard Jones, I think those people went through the same thing. They're talented musicians, but they got, sucked into that whole teen machine thing in the UK. And then by the time, the UK had spit them out, they were making just wonderful records. And that's the same thing with Rick Springfield.
But considering his catalog in the 70s, I mean, he barely sold anything.
Yeah.
And when he came out in the 80s, I was totally down with it because I couldn't believe how strong the material was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just couldn't get past it. He's on a soap opera, but the guy's a musician first.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it, a gig's a gig. And, the fact that he was on General Hospital, I think just catapulted his success more. I think it was a blessing.
I think it's interesting that they wait till the third album to put his big handsome mug on the front of the cover. I mean, he's on Working Class Dog and Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet, but like he's like a little picture there, and then like the limo driver there. So
yeah, exactly. He's like a guest star in his own album covers.
Yeah.
So
also starring.
Yeah. So the story is Working Class Dog was complete. Had it been released, or
I believe that the album was complete and they expected that the album was going to bomb, just like Wait for Night did, and just like, Comic Book Heroes and stuff like that. Now, bomb maybe is too harsh of a word. They weren't expecting it to be successful. So I think that the General Hospital gig and Working Class Dog came out about the same time. I think they helped each other. So it was, the soap opera people were going, hey, wow, yeah, we really like this guy. Oh, he sings too. I mean, why do you think someone like Jack Wagner, all of a sudden became a pop star? And a lot of these people will do that. But Rick Springfield was a musician first. I mean, started in the late 60s in Zoot.
Yeah.
And
that just was a blip over here. I don't know how successful was Zoot over there in Australia.
They were very successful, but then they were lumped in with the teen idol, I think, towards the time that he was in the band, because they were wearing like all pink outfits and everything. Then Speak to the Sky came out, and that was an American hit. I remember that being played on AM radio quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you'd see his albums in the bins, and you'd be going like, oh, interesting that he's got these records coming out, but they're not playing them on the radio. And then but it had been like I think a little while before Wait for Night came out. And I remember thinking like, oh, it's the Speak to the Sky guy, but I didn't buy the album, and then when Working Class Dog came out, it was a whole different ball of wax. That was when my little sister started liking him,
Well, it's like he took all of his career to get to Working Class Dog, because it's quite a bit different than all of his other records.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Rick decided, hey, I'm going to rock out, and that's what he did.
Yeah, but I think also it's down to the production. It's also down to he economized everything, just whittled everything down to its basics.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for
yeah.
you guys, because I think that we may not agree on this. Do you consider these albums, especially the first two of these RCA albums, maybe the first three, do you consider them to be power pop?
Nope.
Because I do.
I don't. I don't consider them power pop. I think that songs, "Love Is All Right Tonight," great power pop song. I don't think Jesse's Girl's power pop. But this is just my opinion. I think he does have some great songs that fall into that. But generally speaking, I think "Love Is All Right Tonight" is the one song that's just absolutely pure
power
delicious power pop.
I think, would you consider "I've Done Everything for You," his version of it? Man, if you listen to Sammy Hagar version, the studio version of it, it did get a release. Originally, it only came out on the live album, but it came out on, I can't remember, some greatest hits, but I found it cheap and it's very power pop. And that's Sammy Hagar. I swear to God, it's power pop. But I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would consider.
Yeah, but we know,
know
that there's two separate categories: power pop and what Grant considers power pop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's close enough. Power pop adjacent.
Power pop adjacent. Yes. I've heard that some people out there absolutely hate when I use that term.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
in any context?
Usually power pop adjacent. They're usually power pop fans, and probably because I call their favorite band power pop adjacent.
Okay.
So
well, we've been doing a lot of shows, and that term adjacent has been coming up a lot. It came up on the Sea of Tranquility show where we were looking at Supertramp, blah blah blah, and they were using the term prog adjacent. And I don't know, Mr. Schnee, I think we may have to credit you for this.
No,
it's catching on.
No, don't credit me for anything.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we have.
But you can credit behind my back. You can credit me.
I'm going to credit you anyway.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be humble. No.
Anyway, we're going to take a look at the RCA era Rick Springfield albums, and I will say it's pretty easy to rank these. And I'm sure you guys will agree with me. There's not a bad album in the lot.
Not even.
There's
Agreed.
Nothing bad. Just different degrees of Rick Springfield, and I guess what you like. So I guess we'll just go. I don't know how we should go. I guess we'll go. We'll start out with Steve and go to Todd, and then we'll come back to me, and we'll just keep going around because there's not that many records. How many are we looking at? 5 records?
Six
records. We don't have to do 2 at a time.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to.
Nah.
No, we could do 2. 2, 4, 6. You want to do that? Nah, let's just do 1 at a time. Come on.
Yeah, 1 at a time. You're just confusing things.
I know.
You're being idiotic adjacent. So
that happens a lot.
So anyway, before we start, just for the listeners out there, or the viewers, I'm sorry, there are many Rick Springfield comps around this period or whatever, but I think that the best comp is the Written in Rock, which is a two CD compilation.
Yep.
And that covers the entire period we're talking about, that has hits, album tracks, and stuff. If you're scared to dive into the Rick Springfield catalog, this is the perfect introduction, and then it'll sort of point you in the direction of where you want to follow.
It's got some Zoot tracks. It goes through most of his career. So yeah.
So I'm going to start with my, number 6?
Number 6.
My number 6 is now Rick Springfield. In the early days, it sounded like he was writing with guitar. So we're talking, it sounds like every song off of the first 2 albums, or the first albums we're talking about here, everything was written on guitar. But it seemed like by the time Living in Oz, he started writing more on keyboards, and it went from a power pop sound to more of an AOR sound. And I think that number 6 here is Tao. It sounded like a whole different songwriting style for him. I think this is a great album. It's an album that you really have to listen to several times in a row. There were, I think Celebrate Youth is on this. And isn't State of the Heart on this? You can't even read it.
State of the Heart's on here, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yes. State of the Heart was actually originally by Mondo Rock. Great Australian band. Mondo Rock, an Australian band.
I didn't even realize he didn't write that.
Yeah, he's actually credited as one of the songwriters.
Yeah,
but if you go back and listen to the Mondo Rock version, it's the same song, but he's not listed. So he added something to it, or maybe he
did some type of rewrite of some sort.
when I listened to it, I mean, maybe he maybe changed a couple words or something, but it's actually written by, I think, Eric McCusker,
Mhm.
from Mondo Rock. Mondo Rock is a great Australian band.
There
Absolutely.
you go, ladies and gentlemen. We bring Mr. Schnee on here so we all can learn together. Great,
But
awesome.
but State of the Heart, I think, is one of his best singles. It's just so wonderful, and he sings it so passionately, whatever. But something has to be number 6, and Tao is my number 6.
All right. Todd Evans, what's your number
Okay.
6?
Well, this is going to be interesting because our lists are going to be very different.
Oh, I can tell.
I want to say before I even start that I consider all of these 7.5 and above out of 10 records. So there's a little distance between my number 6 and my number 5, but after that, there's almost no distance between them. So
Right.
my number 6 is Hard to Hold. I think that Love Somebody, Don't Walk Away, Bop Till You Drop, the instrumental, SFO, Stand Up, and Great Lost Hour Conversation are all great. I think Taxi Dancing is terrible. I think Taxi Dancing sounds to me like, remember that song from The Heights, How Do You Talk to an Angel? That's what Taxi Dancing sounds like to me. There's an awkward saxophone solo in it that just sounds like it's just pop music from that particular year by the numbers.
I thought you were going to say pop music from hell. That's
No.
what I was thinking.
But yeah, I really wanted to be okay with that song too, because I remember back in the day I was, but no. And I think that the other songs that aren't Rick Springfield are actually pretty good. I Go Swimming is great.
It's a great song. That's probably in my top 5 favorite Peter Gabriel songs.
Yeah,
right,
great
cool.
way to end the album. The Graham Parker song is pretty good. Graham Parker, or as we used to call him, me and my high school buddies, Kmart Elvis Costello, which sounds like an insult, but I've never heard a Graham Parker song I didn't like. So, but
well, it's
yeah,
ironic because Graham Parker came first. But go ahead.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
So we were kids, but anyway, I think these are great songs. I think the production is fine. I just think there's a couple of places I think that the other albums are more consistent.
All right. Excellent. All right. So my number 6, I'm going to go along with Todd Evans and pick Hard to Hold. It's not like I don't like this, but it starts off Love Somebody, a classic. Don't Walk Away is great. Bop Till You Drop, top notch. Taxi Dancing, exactly what Todd says. It's very weak. I don't dig it at all. But the instrumental SFO, I don't mind that. Tim Pierce, good. Tim wrote that with Rick. No issues with this. And all the tracks from other artists, I think, are good. But the only reason I'm rating it this low is because we really only have like 3 great Rick Springfield songs, and the rest of it, other artists, so to speak. So still great. I think I love Rick Springfield songwriting, and I love these tracks, and a couple of these were big hits. So it's my number 6.
My number 5 is going to be Hard to Hold, and that's because there's just not enough Rick Springfield on it. I think that if they had used, if they had somehow saw the movie and just go, wow, this is a turd, and decide not to release it, they could have taken these songs, taken some of the songs, and then put them on Tao and only used a couple of those songs, and that would be an incredible Rick Springfield album. But instead, they released that movie, and so yeah, that's my number 5. And I love Taxi Dancing. Obviously, you guys don't have a heart. You guys don't understand what true romance and love is all about.
I don't.
And you've never ridden in a taxi, nor have you ever danced in a taxi. And
it's the only song I know by Randy Crawford.
She actually had some records that got played on what do you call that that kind of jazz R&B, the really soft stuff, like smooth jazz or whatever. And she had a lot of songs that got played on radio stations like that. But go ahead.
Her songs are usually better.
Yeah. Not better than Taxi Dancing.
That's exactly what I meant.
Slow dance. Yeah.
All right, excellent. That's your number 5. Let's
Yes.
hear what Todd Evans has to say.
All right, my number 5 is, and remember what I said about all these records being, really, there's no distance between them practically. Working Class Dog. I had a really good friend in high school.
Wait a
Bill.
minute.
Hello, Bill.
Wait a minute.
Whoa.
Steve, you all right? You okay?
I don't know.
Okay. Wait
Oh,
a
that's
minute. Wait a minute. Let us regroup here for a second. Okay, I'm ready.
okay.
Whoa.
Wow, that was a shocker, Todd.
I
Go
was
ahead.
not.
Yeah,
I
I know.
didn't
It's
anticipate
hard
that.
to believe, but he doesn't watch any of my shows. Hi, Bill, if you're watching, he's not. But anyway, he really liked this more than I did. But I had to admit that this was my first experience with Rick Springfield, this album.
Mhm.
Even I had to admit, there's some depth here. This
Mhm.
guy is actually, everybody thought of him as just like a singing soap opera star, but this is good, and this record is strong. Love Is All Right Tonight is great. I had some friends that were in a band and they played that song, and Jesse's Girl, of course, everybody likes that. I think Hole in My Heart, Carry Me Away are both super strong. So you get this whole, like the whole, and I've done everything for you. The whole 5 song stretch that's the first side of this album is just kind of goes bam, 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 one after the other, and everything is good. The whole album is good. I think the amazing thing to me is how creative the arrangement is for Red Hot and Blue Love with the little big band thing happening in there.
Mhm.
That's really creative, and I don't know whether to credit Rick or Bill Drescher or Keith Olsen, or I don't know how that came apart, or all of them together, but that kind of blew me away when I first heard it.
Yeah.
I think Inside Sylvia is not the best way to end this record, but I wanted to mention this, and this is a good time probably to say it. Most of Rick Springfield's, for Rick Springfield to have kind of a teen idol kind of a part of his reputation is that, whether that's correct or incorrect, he doesn't have a lot of straight up ballads. Most of his ballads are like mid tempo.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a lot of that. So me nor the rest of my friends who liked this album really cared for Inside Sylvia a whole lot. But the album's great. It's really strong. It's a clever album cover. I mean, I'm sorry to put it at number 5, but I think it's good.
No, you said that there's just hardly any
Yeah.
degree in separation with these, so I get it. A little surprised it's that low, but it's really not low.
I'll explain when I get to number 4
Okay,
a
good.
little further.
So my number 5. I'm gonna go with Teo. The reason I'm gonna go with it is that Todd probably he digs all this is very keyboard heavy, and it's very commercial sounding. A little bit
You
more.
are not incorrect with your assumption.
I know how you're wired. A little bit too much for me. I like the whole record, but this is really an outlier in the whole RCA catalog, because after this, he kind of went back. I don't want to say he went backwards, but he went more to the more traditional sounding.
He did a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all the way though.
Not all the way, but we're not to that record yet.
Right.
But Celebrate Youth, great track. State of the Heart, though, is one of my all-time. I mean, Mr. Schnee already mentioned that, but it's one of my all-time favorites. And Tim Pierce must have, I don't know how that worked with Eric and how because you said that the track, Eric, when he wrote it, it's just his sole songwriting credit.
That is correct.
And how far did that come out before this record or after?
It could have been co-written with lead singer Ross Wilson, but it was a Mondo Rock song and it was a Mondo Rock single. Yeah. And it came out in 81.
81. Oh, darn. All right. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Power of Love is great. My Father's Chair is probably, it's a tribute to his father who recently passed away. I think it's very emotional, wonderful track. I don't have any problem with this record at all. I don't think that it's quite as accessible as his other records. And maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Or it could be the big drum machines and the Yamaha DX7s and all that. Maybe it's just too much for me. But even when Rick Springfield goes down that really commercial road, total 80s production where it should be really out of date, because a lot of this 80s production, I get to the point where I just go, this is just too much. It doesn't date well. When I listen to Rick Springfield, I don't have one issue with it. Because the songs are so good. Rick's voice is great. You've got most of this stuff has Tim Pierce playing guitar on it. It's just high quality pop music, and I like it. And this could be as commercial as it comes, and I still enjoy it. And his catalog is one of the few catalogs that I can go back and say that about.
I mentioned this on another show when we were talking about Queen.
Mhm.
And that if you look at comments, if you look at like YouTube, if you look these songs up on the Tao songs on YouTube, and you click
Mhm.
comments from younger people, not a single person says, "Oh, I don't like the drum machines. Oh, I don't like all the keyboards."
Yeah.
You know, they talk about the songs. So I
It's
think
hard for me. I get stuck in that whole thing.
but it's those of us who came up through that time where we lived through that change are
Mhm.
more sensitive to that, I think, than
I don't know why that should be,
others.
though.
See, I think that Rick Springfield was trying to break out of the teen idol thing, and I think that Living in Oz was the first step in doing that. I thought that Hard to Hold was a bad move in terms of movie, because it's gonna, it's gonna keep the career sort of stuck in that teen idol type or commercial pop era. And I think that Tao was really up just a real big push forward. Just like, look, there's a lot more depth and a lot more power to my music than Jesse's Girl, or whatever song you want to top 40 song you want to mention.
Yeah, and there was, it's funny about his music. If there's people that don't know how to take him, he's got there's a lot of depth in his lyrics, and even going back to Working Class Dog, but there's also songs that are not that deep. So
Mm-hmm,
he kind of has both things going on. But
mm-hmm,
another thing too about Tao is that he was in a situation where he was more interested in what was happening in Europe musically than he was in what was happening in the United States.
mm-hmm.
And so I have read that he thinks that Tao is the best one. That it's the one that he thinks is the most accomplished, because he was really proud of it at the time that he made it.
There was probably
Yeah.
more cutting edge, I guess, since he was basically bringing all these ideas from Europe.
See, and he just kept moving forward. Like I said, he went, Working Class Dog, Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. Those are his guitar pop albums, his commercial pop albums. And then I think he went like with those on those albums, you can imagine the Knack opening for him, or you can imagine Elvis Costello, and him opening for Elvis Costello and the Attractions, or whatever, kind of appealing to the same guitar pop crowd. But then by the time of Tao, you can imagine him touring with Journey, or touring with a band like that, being accepted by people who are a little bit more into their music, or more into AOR, more into rock music than just pop. And I think he's been traveling down that road ever since, just writing really intelligent, deep, meaningful songs. Anyway, we're going to go with my number 4.
If this was a live show, we'd have the people watching setting us straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if we did this live, we wouldn't worry about it.
Rock of Life is my number 4.
Mm.
I think that he's pulling back on the keyboard sound, adding more guitar, getting a little rougher, more rock. And this has one of my favorite Rick Springfield songs, which is Honeymoon in Beirut.
Yes.
What a song.
Yes. What a song.
Yeah. There's so many parts to these songs. If you really listen to it, just the way that vocals are layered and the way that the instruments are layered, there's so much going on in these records. And like I said, I think that the critics they stopped listening after Jesse's Girl, and the critics would go, oh, yeah, this is just, overblown rock and roll. It's like, no, it's not overblown rock and roll. It's somebody who's crafting together a rock album. Great songs, great performances, great production. And I think that gets lost when you listen to Rick Springfield, if you put him in that teen crowd. Like I said, I keep mentioning that, but I don't think that way. I'm saying that critically and stuff, I think that he gets shit on because people just think he's a teen pop star. But this, I think, is a very strong, very mature record, and it was his last for RCA.
Yeah, I wonder because the previous record came out in 85. This is 88. That's pretty much an unheard of thing to have that big of a gap in the 80s from an artist. So, by that time, I think he probably was out of favor a little bit more, if he would have kept it going.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. But yeah,
that's
a great.
Could have been problems with the label,
But Honeymoon in Beirut is my top notch. I think that might be my favorite Rick Springfield
the only Rick Springfield single on RCA that did not chart.
Amazing.
I just think he had his moment. No one can last forever. And I think that really killed him.
Probably not a lot of promotion from the label.
No.
Yeah.
This is the last one for RCA, so they probably didn't do. I
Yeah.
don't. When this came out, it just was. I don't remember much promotion.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Todd,
worked for a distributor, and I don't remember much promotion.
Yeah, that was the last year of my record store career.
Yeah.
And yeah, we couldn't give it away. No one was
Well, I
interested.
remember the original RCA CD, which I do have here, ladies and gentlemen, was one of those CDs back in the day during the Clinton administration where people were, when I'm going to say the Clinton, because the 90s was great for used CD stuff because people were spending a lot of money. And then I remember when Clinton got out of office, it all fell apart. I swear to God, I remember it like yesterday because I was doing a lot of eBay,
Well,
eBay.
that's the .com boom. That's when we were all buying DVDs from buy.com and all that stuff.
It was great. It was great. But Rock of Life was one of those CDs because it did not sell back in the day. It ended up in the
It was hard to find one.
Hard to find the RCA pressing. And I used to buy them if I could find one. And I could maybe, if I could find one, if I was lucky, maybe spend $5 on it and I could turn around and sell it for 30, 40 bucks in the 90s.
I had the vinyl of that. I got the promo.
Oh,
no
really?
one else wanted it. And I was assistant manager, but I got the promo.
Of course.
So that was one of the last vinyl records I ever had from the original era before we came around again.
Here's a little bit of fun information. When that album came out, the BMG rep came down, there'd be a sales presentation, they bring lunch and then they talk about upcoming out or albums that are coming out or new albums that are coming out. They brought a VHS, popped in the VHS, and it was Rick Springfield sitting on a chair, whatever. I was working for Abbey Road Distributors at the time. And he said, "Hey, everybody at Abbey Road Distributors, this is Rick Springfield and Ron," because Ron, his dog, was still alive. The dog that's on the cover of the albums.
Oh, yeah.
And then he said, just letting you know, I have a brand new album called Rock of Life, and here's the first video from it or whatever. And then that was it. So it wasn't addressed to me, but it was addressed to me and my 20 other coworkers. But yeah, I used to have that video. It's long gone by now.
How cool is that, though?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right, so that was your number 4?
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to Todd Evans, see what he's got.
Okay, my number 4 is Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. And the reason that I rank it over Working Class Dog is that I like the fact that it sounds a little bit more sophisticated. I think the first thing that we heard was Don't Talk to Strangers, and it sounded, it had some electric piano in it. It sounded like, a little bit more sophisticated to me. But, again, another record with a side 1 that just goes bam, 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 calling all girls to get excited. What kind of fool am I? Christina, Tonight, and Black is Black. All of them great.
All of them great, yep.
Not to say that it's front loaded and not to say that the other side isn't good too, but it really kind of hits you in the face. And I think it's a really strong record. I liked it more when I when I went through it in the past couple of weeks than I thought I was going to. And so I moved it ahead of Working Class Dog.
It's a great pick. Man,
absolutely.
Great pick. All right. Well, I'm going to jump on to what Steve said. I'm going to go with Rock of Life. I love this record. I like that it's less keyboard. Well, it's kind of like how do I want to say it? Plenty of keyboards. There's still a lot of like 80s types of effects,
There's some sound effects.
That kind of date it. But the songs are great. Honeymoon in Beirut is absolutely brilliant. My favorite Rick Springfield song. It is a travesty that this did not chart. I think this is his best, well-written sounding single that he had done at this point.
The melody of the verses of that song, I'm saving it for when I talk about the album, but the melody of the verses is just unbelievably good.
Unbelievably good, and you never get tired of it.
Nope.
In fact, I do want to say this. Listening to his catalog, I can always come back into these RCA albums after a long time and not hearing them. And it's just, when it hits me, I love everything about it. I love everything about him. I don't get tired of the Rick Springfield catalog. Not every catalog I can say that about, but this I can. And you might think, well, Grant, why are you rating this so low? Well, you have to go somewhere. But I think this is better than the album that came out before. So I like it. I just think when it came out in 1988, too much time had went by, no support from the label. Obviously, he didn't get an extension on his RCA contract, but I think he was going through some things. So he took a break for a while and then came back. I love it. I can't say any more than what Steve said about it. I'll let it go there. A great record. Highly recommend it. One day it could be higher on my list, but today that's where it is.
That's the thing about these albums is tomorrow I might be in a whole different mood and listen to Tao and put that at number 2.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
So,
all right,
so
Steve, what you got?
I tuned Grant out again. Did he already do his number 4?
He did.
Okay.
Is that all the
Don't
time?
worry, Grant, I'm paying attention.
Thanks, Todd.
Number 3, great album. It's got to go somewhere. Living in Oz. This, like I said, this was the transition album. This is when it sounded like he went from saying, fuck this teenage shit. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to prove that I am an accomplished rock musician. I don't mean that literally. He probably didn't actually say those words in his head or whatever, but I think that he was tired of doing, he had pared down his music for Working Class Dog. Then he had sort of continued that trend for Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. Now he had the money. He had probably the label just said, do what you want. So he brought in these keyboards and this whole new band. Now I know his band didn't work with him live, or I mean in the studio, but his touring band at that time included Jack White, who used to be in Gary Myrick and the Figures, not the whatever that other Jack White is, a Third Man Records guy. But this has just got some great songs on it. Human Touch, of course, is a big single. Allison's a great song. Affair of the Heart is just incredible. Living in Oz, this is just a strong album. And that is why it's my number 3. It's got muscle, but it's also got great songs. It's got keyboards, guitar, great production, and there you go.
Good one. Excellent. All right. Am I up?
No, Todd
no,
is.
Todd is God.
And my number 3
See,
is
that's
also,
my problem, Todd, is I'm listening to Steve. I should zone him out, but he's got such a nice voice. It kind of hits Steve. Seriously, your voice hits me in the back of the neck. And I'm just listening and I'm just going, yeah. It's very soothing. And I just kind of zone out for a second.
But everyone's always saying that you have the better voice.
I do.
Yeah. Fucker. Todd, go ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
Living in Oz, number 3.
Oh my God, this ranking's all over the place.
Couple of things about this album. On keyboards, Brett Tuggle, who would later be Lindsey Buckingham's right-hand man and just passed away recently, rest in peace, and Mitchell Froom on keyboards as well. Something happened on Living in Oz, and it also happened to another band. Remember Journey Frontiers? Remember when Steve Perry's voice got tougher? And everybody went,
it kind of got more raspy.
It got grittier. Yeah, it kind of happened to Rick Springfield too. And you hear that more on Tao than you do on Living in Oz. But I think it kind of starts here. And so, that one too. Yeah. But, again, it hits you with 3 singles, right off the bat. And they're all great. I don't know. Was Allison a single? I don't know if it was. It's just
but it should have been.
I don't remember whether it was.
I don't think it was.
But on this album, when I went through it again in the next a couple of times, in the past couple of weeks, I thought that my favorite Rick Springfield song was "Honeymoon in Beirut," and I think it's actually "Me and Johnny." I think "Me and Johnny" might be his best song. It's very emotional. It's very sweet, and it's just simple enough to not be too complicated, and you really get what he's trying to say, and it's just a really nice. Let me tell you about my buddy kind of a song. And it's just, that's cliche, but he does it really, really well. And of course, I like the production. Of course, I like the combination of keyboards and the technology. And it's not too much. It's just right. And number 3, right in them. Well, a little higher than the middle.
Right.
Awesome. I can't argue with that at all. All right, my number 3. Schnee's going to give me crap for this. My number 3, I'm going to go with Working Class Dog. Look at him. He loves this record. I think this
give me any trouble for putting it at number 5.
No, I know. We both Grant and I had a heart attack.
We both gave you crap.
Oh yeah, we both had a heart attack, Todd.
Everyone always thinks this is the best one. But like Todd said, they vary by different degrees, and this could be rated higher tomorrow. Love Is All Right Tonight is a classic. What a way to start out an album. There's always these big cuts on these Rick Springfield cuts to really bring you into it. Then it goes into Jesse's Girl classic, Hole in My Heart, Carry Me Away, I've Done Everything for You. Sammy Hagar song, which no one really knew. It came out on a live album, but Rick Springfield makes it his own. And that was a big hit. When I was kid, what was this? When this 81, when this came out, we all loved this record. The Light of Love, Everybody's Girl, Daddy's Pearl, Inside Sylvia. There's not a bad track on here. But why am I doing this? Why is this my number 3?
Because
2 more records that I like a little bit better because
you're dumb adjacent.
Well, probably. That's not very nice. Anyway, see, now I'm all, what? All right. Anyway,
you're all flustered adjacent. Go ahead.
And flustered adjacent. So anyway, Working Class Dog. I think it's a great record, but I don't think this is the record. I think he was still trying. No, I don't want to use that term that he's finding himself. But I think as he had more success and he kept moving, I think he developed more. Each record, I think he develops. And there's one particular record that I'm going to talk about where I think he peaks on. This is not it. I love everything about it. But out of all his catalog, this is the one I return to least, which is kind of odd. I don't know. Maybe it's because I know it so well. You know, a lot of these records, like Steely Dan, I know all those records forward and back.
It's written in here.
It's written in here.
About it.
I can just look at the titles and review it. Oh, it's a great record. What a way to come back after that. How long was it? 77 to 80? What was the prior album to this?
78, I think.
78.
I think Wait for Night was 78. No, 76.
76.
Yeah, I think
so.
76.
Beautiful Feelings was done in 78, but it didn't come out until later.
Didn't get released. I don't think I've ever even heard that yet. But Wait for the Night, yes, I do have that. And it's such a contrast, but that's a lot of time in between records. Love this record. Welcome Return. Great record. Nothing weak on it, but that's my number 3. All right, Mr. Schnee.
Okay, let's go number 2. Sorry. This is tough because my number 1 and my number 2 complete tie. And I'm only picking this as number 2 because it's expected that my number 1 is going to be number 1. So I'm going to pick Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet as my number 2.
Okay.
And I will tell you right now, it's a solid album. And I'm a schmaltzy kind of guy. I love ballads and I love mellow songs and stuff. And What Kind of Fool Am I and Don't Talk to Strangers are probably 2 of my favorite songs of the 80s. Just absolutely stellar because he doesn't sound like he's phoning them in. He sounds like, wow, when he's begging you, please, it sounds like he's really, like maybe he's really experienced this or he's really feeling that. What kind of fool am I? It could be the actor in him because, he's really popular on General Hospital, of course, but it sounds so sincere. And, I'm not a big fan of Black is Black like you guys are, or like Grant is, or no, wait, no, Todd, you're a big fan of Black is Black, right?
I like that song, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I love the song, but not particularly his version.
I like it.
I don't dislike it at all. But overall, What Kind of Fool Am I and Don't Talk to Strangers are the songs that really, really make this a tie with number 1 because I love those songs so much. And the whole album is strong, but those are the songs that I keep going back to over and over again. And there's it's absolutely stellar.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. All right, Todd, what's your number 2?
All right. Well, when you approached me, Grant, about doing this show, I got really excited because I was like, I am going to pick a number one that nobody is going to pick, and everybody's going to be surprised and shocked. I am going to pick Tao as my number one. And then I went through all of these albums a couple of times, and Tao is my number two. So there was an upset. When I heard this album, it was perfect for me at the time. It was exactly what I was into. I thought Celebrate Youth was amazing. I thought, I've never heard anything like this. And then it's followed by State of the Heart, which I thought was so good. I thought it was his best song of that kind. I think Written in Rock is great. The Power of Love is great. The Tower of Heaven is great. Stranger in the House is great. And My Father's Chair, out of all of the songs that he wrote about his father, My Father's Chair is the best one. And I never don't tear up when I hear it. I always think, oh, I'm not going to this time because I've heard it so many times, and I always do. And you know what? It looks really cool. Cool picture of him, cool graphics, cool picture of him on the back, cool graphics on the back, great colors. He had something going with design. All of his records looked really good.
Yeah. I mean, this is fun. It's lighthearted,
all of
but
them have
everything
just
looks good.
really great design. And this is definitely one of the ones that I think is really exceptional. It's my number two.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about Tao over the years is it's an emotionally powerful record.
And he says he was going through a whole bunch of stuff when he wrote it.
Yeah, so but yeah, anyway, go ahead.
But there's no denying about what we've been talking about the instrumentation on it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people credited with playing Emulator 2, DX7, JX3P, Octagon, OB8.
Yeah.
So it's like every hot new piece of technology you could think of at the time. But you know who else was doing that? Foreigner was doing that. A lot of bands were getting into a lot of those same sounds.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mitchell Froome. Mitchell Froome's playing an emulator. DX7, Tim Pierce is playing guitar, but he's also got the GR707, which is a guitar synth.
That's a guitar synth, yeah.
Jeff Silverman guitar synths. I'm not even sure. Well,
and this John Philip Chanel, whoever that is, he's playing a PPG and an OB8.
Anyone playing a guitar?
They're playing all the latest and the greatest on this record at the time.
Yep.
Nicky Hopkins. No one mentions that, but Nicky's playing DX7 and JX3P on here. Nicky.
That's weird. I thought he'd stay away from that stuff.
I thought he just played piano, but
apparently not.
Evidently not. The other thing we should mention
sings on this album.
We should mention something about that. This is one of those things on all these records. Richard Page is doing background vocals, and he's like part of that, the blend. Richard Page, and who's the other gentleman that usually sings with Richard Page? I'm blanking out. They always sang together a lot on all these sessions.
Abraham Lincoln?
No, it'll come to me. But there's a certain sound. All the backgrounds in all these albums all sound the same, but they're all really good.
Yeah, there's the wall of vocals. Again, to me, it didn't sound like, but it reminds me of like Mark Abzak from Don Iris and the Cruisers, how he would arrange these voices, and he had this distinct way of stacking voices. And I think that a lot of the Rick Springfield albums and recordings have that unique stacked vocal.
Yeah, I think he used a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
But it's great. Oh, Tom Kelly. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw his name, but I wasn't sure if that's who you were.
Yeah, Tom Kelly and Richard Page are a lot of things together. And I think that blend with Rick singing with them is just killer, I think. And it won't work for you, Schnee.
I know. I got to hide balloons down here for next time.
All right, now I've totally got on a tangent, and I can't remember where we're at.
You're next.
You're next. You're number two.
My number two. Okay, my number two. I'm going to go with this little gem. Second album, there's no sophomore slump here at all.
Especially since it was his fifth album.
Right.
Well, okay. But a lot of people don't.
I always think of it as a second.
Yeah, true.
It's like he had a rebirth,
Yeah.
And people didn't pay attention to what he was doing in the 70s. This is all new stuff. But I'm going to say no sophomore slump for his second RCA release. Calling All Girls, a great track. I get excited. Wonderful. What Kind of Fool Am I is pop goodness. I agree totally with Schnee. Great. Christina's great. Wrote that with Jim Valance. That's a wonderful track. Tonight's great, but Black is Black. I think it's fine. I think he makes Black and Black his own. Fits right in. You don't really think about it being a cover. When I was a kid, I never thought about it.
Yeah, because you probably didn't even know the original.
Probably didn't. Not when then, because all I was doing is listening to Styx. Don't Talk to Strangers. Another classic. How Do You Talk to Girls? The American Girl. I love the whole record. Still Crazy for You.
I wanted to say this about How Do You Talk to Girls when I forgot. I have a note down here.
Well, say it. Go ahead.
We were talking about how his arrangements are more clever than advertised. The steel drums and How Do You Talk to Girls, you almost don't even notice them. And then you're just like, wait a minute, are those steel drums? They become so much a part of the song that they just sound right. Some people would do that and you'd be like, oh, what are those steel drums doing in there? But these arrangements are so well done that everything works.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because, well, this was produced by Keith Olsen. I don't know what happened to Bill.
Well, he comes back.
He comes back, but he seems to produce most of the records because I think, everything after Success, I think he is the producer. But I don't know. Keith Olsen sounds great. I know there's a story. There's something behind the music or a documentary or something where Rick goes into it. But I think Keith Olsen, wasn't he partners in Sound City in Van Nuys? And then Keith Olsen broke off and started his own studio. I don't know, but Keith Olsen was part of this ownership of Sound City or something. I don't remember. You know what it was, Todd and Steve? It was in that Sound City documentary where they talk about it. But I'd have to watch it again.
I need to watch that again.
Yeah, that's a great documentary.
Yeah.
My brother took my little sister to see Rick Springfield during the Success tour, Universal Amphitheater. And I remember my sister being blown away because there's the stage or whatever. And all of a sudden, upper right side of the stage, there's like a platform or whatever. And just this big puff of smoke comes up. And as it clears, Rick Springfield is standing there playing guitar. And they were like, friggin', how the heck can you do that? Then later on that year, whatever, they had on cable, like HBO or before it was HBO, very early cable, they had that live performance. And it's just interesting to see the backstage thing of him climbing up these steps and ducking behind the stage. And the minute the smoke goes up, he stands up, and it takes away the magic. But at the same time, it's just kind of cool. But you can't find that video on YouTube. I've looked for it, yeah.
So there you go. Concert. Yeah. So there you go. That's my number 2. I love it. It could rank higher tomorrow, but that's what I'm going to go with today. All right, Schnee, what's your number 1?
Beep, beep. I'll tell you, Honeymoon in Beirut, State of the Heart, Affair of the Heart, What Kind of Fool Am I? All this stuff. So many great songs. I mean, even after this period, so many great songs. One of his great later songs, Will I, which is just a real tough song. He's had so many great songs throughout his career, but I think my ultimate favorite is Love Is All Right Tonight. It is the epitome of just a great pop song. Yes, it does fit that power pop thing, but I think it's beyond that, and of course, Jesse's Girl was huge, and Carry Me Away, and I've Done Everything for You. Like you guys had talked about, I think that this was just a solid effort. I think, and Todd's going to love this, or both of you are going to love this, because one of the bonus tracks is an early version of Taxi Dancing.
And I haven't heard that. I'll bet it's better.
I didn't even know that they remastered that and reissued it.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the original one. Mine's made in Japan. I've got.
Do you have that 5 CD box set?
No.
You don't have this?
There.
I've got the original Japanese.
It is. There it is, right there. Look at the tracks, Todd.
Oh, you're right. It is. That's right. When I prepped for this, I streamed these. Yeah. Okay. I just got this a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah. So
Well,
if you
I'm
get
listening to that,
this,
I'm sure.
Okay.
either you can get the version with bonus tracks. There's only, I think, three bonus, demo version of Jesse's Girls, one of the bonus tracks, demo version of Taxi Dancing, and then a song called Easy to Cry. And but yeah, I think it's a solid record. But as Todd said, it's not that far away on my list from Tao, which is my number 6. I think every album that we've talked about has something to love about it. And it's not because I'm a Rick Springfield sycophant. It's because he's just a great artist, great overlooked artist. And like I said at the beginning, Written in Rock is a great compilation if you want to just see the power of his music.
Yeah.
But it's not part of this ranking here. So anyway, Working Class Dog is my numero uno.
All right, cool. All right, Todd, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is a big surprise and an upset over Tao at the last minute, Rock of Life. For most of my life since 1988, Honeymoon in Beirut has been my favorite Rick Springfield song. Man, is it good. And everything down to the breaking glass and the strength of the melodies and the lyrics. It's great wordplay, great metaphors. And then Worlds Start Turning right after it. Again, another great song. And it's one of those songs about how, somebody saying things are happening for other people and nothing's happening for me. And it's it's real easy to turn those songs into kind of a lazy, complainy kind of a trope, but he doesn't. His point in that song is basically, I'm going to stop letting the fact that things are happening to other people and not me bother me, and I'm going to overcome it. And that's just great. It's really a great song. It's a song that I never really thought about what the lyrics were about until very recently. Soul to Soul is great. I think Soul to Soul, there are two singles from this, Rock of Life and Honeymoon in Beirut, and then they just stopped. Why Soul to Soul wasn't a single, I have no idea. Probably because Honeymoon in Beirut did not chart. But I think that Hold On to Your Dream is way up there. That might be my number 3 Rick Springfield song. I just think it's a really strong song with a really great melody. And I think ending the album with a cover, If You Think You're Groovy, is a good idea because he hadn't done it before. He usually ends his albums with something sad.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice change of
pace. My God, you're right. Ends on a high note.
But I think that this album is really strong. I like the fact that he backed off of the technology, but not completely. I think that that makes it really accessible for the time, and a lot of people at that time were being influenced by people like Peter Gabriel and stuff like that, and you can sort of hear that in here a little bit. And I think it should have done better. I think it was just the perfect storm of there being a little bit too much time and there maybe being a label that wasn't super interested.
The Rock Candy version contains two bonus tracks, The Language of Love and extended version of Rock of Life. I wish that there was a extended version of Honeymoon in Beirut out there somewhere. Yeah.
I think those are out of print now. The Rick Springfield Rock Candies.
Yeah, I think they are.
But it's funny. I was just looking through this booklet. Of course, I was flashing stuff. But for this being the final RCA album, they sure put a nice booklet together for it to not promote anything or push the record.
I just ordered one of those on eBay, one of those original RCAs. It's just not here yet.
How much are they going for now?
I think it was 11 or 12.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, they used to go for a lot more.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good choice, Todd. All right. My number 1 is going to be this gem here, Living in Oz. And the reason I'm picking this is because I think this is a happy medium between everything, between 80s production, keyboards, guitars. It still rocks. There's a lot of guitars still, but there's a lot of keyboards. There's some drum machines on it, but I think it's all well executed. I'm looking at the background vocals, Rick Springfield, Tom Kelly, and Richard Page. Right there is gold. Those guys together singing. Guitars are Rick Springfield, Tim Pierce. We mentioned Jack White, who was in Gary Myrick. He's playing on this, he's playing electric drums. But I just think that this is great record. My God, you've got Human Touch, Allison, Affair of the Heart. I don't know if there's a strong, well, there might be. Steve may disagree. I don't know if there's a stronger side on a Rick Springfield album.
And Living in Oz is great too.
And Living in Oz is great. And Me and Johnny's great. Side one, just killer. Motel Eyes is good. Tiger by the Tail. I could go on, and I do like Father Like Son. I think that's really nice. He always does these tributes to his dad. It's my number one. I must say that this used to be one of the records that I didn't think that highly of. It's kind of that Ghost in the Machine thing. I never was really into Ghost in the Machine, but as I get older, Ghost in the Machine's my number one. This is my number one right now. It could probably change, but this has been my number one for a long time.
Well, I guess we won't be doing a police ranking because now we know what your number one is.
No. Yeah, we did that on another show.
That's right.
Yeah.
Show I'm never invited to.
No, I only use you for certain things.
I know.
Well, that was on Tom's show.
The basement.
Todd and I were on that, right?
On what? The police show? I wasn't on the police show.
Maybe that was me.
My police ranking is weird.
Todd,
maybe
you
that
and me
was
should
me.
do a police show. Forget Grant.
I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, that's my number one.
Awesome.
So this just goes to show you, everybody, how strong this RCA catalog is, because all of our rankings are different and all of our rankings could fluctuate.
Yeah.
You gentlemen, have anything else to add before we end this show?
Completely underappreciated artist. Look beyond the hits, look beyond the image that you may have formed of him just being an actor, become a musician. It's the complete opposite. Most musicians are really crappy actors. I mean, just pay attention to some of the videos in the early 80s. But Rick Springfield just happened to do well at both. And he just really underappreciated, overlooked talent.
I agree. Todd, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I'm guilty of not spending a lot of time with any of the albums after Rock of Life. And I used to have Karma and Shock, Denial, Anger, Acceptance, and I haven't heard them in a really long time. I don't even have the CDs anymore. And but I heard a song. I was streaming one of these, and the song that came on after it was trying to, well, if you like that Rick Springfield song, here's another song you'll like. And it picked one of his later songs called What's Victoria's Secret? And it was from the 2000s, and it felt totally seamless. It felt like it fit right in with Living Oz or whatever it was I was listening to. And I thought, this is a clue that I need to listen to all of his records, because he's got a ton of them. I think he's got one coming out this year.
Yeah,
he just had one come out last year or early this year called was it called Automatic? And I think he was comparing it to his RCA stuff. I think it's a mixture between his RCA stuff and his more current stuff.
Okay, well, I should probably trust him on that.
Yeah.
I saw Rick play in 1999, right before Karma. So he was playing a lot. He was playing stuff from Karma. And when I heard him play it live, I thought he hadn't lost anything. It's like Karma, when I listen to it, just seems like picking up right where Rock of Life was.
Yeah,
next phase.
I don't know how I missed him, because with me knowing so many people who really liked him, I'm really surprised that I never saw him. But I never saw him.
I like a lot of that. I don't have all of his later catalog. I've got some of it. Whenever it shows up in the used bin, I'll pick up something if I don't have it. But Karma, I could have put Karma with all these records easily. Just thinking about it, because it just was so impactful. And I mean, God, we're talking 11 years, but he didn't skip a beat.
No time went by. Yeah.
No,
I'm not a fan of covers version albums, but he has an album of cover versions, and there's some really good songs on there, because you can tell that he loves the song. You would think that he would ruin I'm Not in Love. No, he keeps the going from left to right channel. His almost everything about it is exact like the 10cc. He does change a few things. You may wonder why he would even do it if he's not going to change it, but it's great. And he does a version of Under the Milky Way by The Church. It's just really a fascinating release. I think all of his solo albums are worth your time. I mean, even the Red Locusts.
I was just going to mention, fabulous, absolutely stunning record.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you
That
don't have
covers
the.
album is great.
I didn't pull it, but
the
that
day
he
after yesterday or the day before yesterday or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I think I may still have the digital files somewhere, but yeah,
But the
very
Red
good.
Locust came out, what year did that come out? 2020, 2021. But he did that with Matt Bissonette and Greg Bissonette. And it's very Beatle-esque, psychedelic, kind of 60s. It's got a real 60s vibe. Well, I mean, they all go by the name Paul Ramon is Rick Springfield, you know, and they all have like pseudonyms, but
See,
it's great.
I think it sounds 70% like his more current stuff, but 30% more Beatle-esque, more focused. It's not power pop. A lot of people say, oh, this is his power pop record. It's not power pop, but that's the direction it's headed.
Yeah, it's like a tribute to the Beatles and power pop is what it is.
Right. But it's more that mature Rick Springfield songwriting that he's, you know, because he does every album just has gems on it.
But if you don't know Red Locust, please do yourself a favor and go out and stream it, because it is, I think that was my album of the year when it came out.
Yeah, it's under the band name, the Red Locusts.
Right.
It's not a Rick Springfield album called Red
It
Locusts.
doesn't mention
yeah.
Rick Springfield. It doesn't mention Matt or Greg Bissonette on it.
I didn't even know about that.
Oh, Todd, do yourself a favor. You will not regret it. It is a wonderful record. And, you know, just came out. It's just a blip, you know.
Well, it only came out through their website. And if you were able to get copies on eBay or Amazon or whatever, it's because somebody bought it and decided to sell it.
No, I ordered mine through the record store because it came out on vinyl originally. Then they brought it out on CD. I think you were able to get the CD through distributors and stuff, because I just ordered my copy from him.
Okay.
So I don't,
because I was not able to find it anywhere, and I had to just resort to getting it from the website.
I don't know.
I'll leave you with this one non-musical thought about Rick Springfield. He played Dr. Noah Drake on General Hospital, and fictional actor Joey Tribbiani on the show Friends played Dr. Drake Ramore.
Classic.
The inspiration, perhaps.
Yeah, quite possibly.
It's a good record. So did the album have a different cover, the Red Locust, and then the CD just had like had a different cover, totally different?
I'm not sure.
With a grasshopper on it or whatever, or a locust or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, mine is predominantly red cover, locust on it.
That came out on Lollipop Records, and the album came out on Red Locust Records. So I'm not sure what Red Lollipop is, but that looks to be an independent record label based out of Los Angeles. So that's why it came out on a different.
Yeah.
So there you go. Look it up. It's probably not in print anymore, but well worth seeking out. All right, gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Hopefully we've turned you on to some Rick Springfield. After all, that's all we're here to do is, well, we like to talk music, but we want to turn you on to stuff. So if you like Rick, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it. All right. Based on that, let's wrap this dog up. All right, Steve, nice to see you. Todd Evans, nice seeing you, and we will see you on the next one.